NFL draft is in the rearview mirror, and after Thursday's NFL schedule announcement, we can finally turn our heads to what may or may not lie ahead depending on the current landscape of things. But the Eagles released their full regular season and preseason schedules last night, and I thought it'd be a good time to take a look at them in depth and try and break down where the potholes may be and where the opportunities lie. Now, this won't be a full regular season game by game prediction. That video is coming on Sunday Fun Day because it's a fun video for a Sunday. But for today, we're just going to look at the opponents, break down the schedule, and try and get a bit more of an insight as to how intimidating or friendly this really is. Before we get started though, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this content. It's very much appreciated, and I hope you're all keeping safe. If you could hit that subscribe button should you enjoy the content, that would be absolutely amazing. We're so close to 20,000 subscribers now, and we would love to make you part of our ever-growing community where we've got a Discord server where you can communicate with Eagles fans and so much more opportunity to really do things as a group as soon as all of this passes over. And as always, if you do enjoy Philadelphia sports and you want to get a home for Philadelphia sports coverage, Philly Sports Network is the place to go for content from myself and all of our writers. Let's kick things off with weeks 1 to 4. The Eagles open up their season on the road to the Washington Redskins, as they did in both 2019 and 2030. Now, last year's game, for those who can't remember, was a bit of a roller coaster. They went down 17-0 to start with before finding some magic and clawing their way back into the matchup and coming out with an emphatic victory. They'll be open for much of the same, without the 17-0 deficit this time around. And I think they should absolutely get off running here. It's a consistency thing. They know their week 1 opponents. They play them twice a year. They're very familiar. It's a great chance for the Eagles to get comfortable, find out what works, what needs tweaking in what could be a very different looking offense in 2020. Week 2, and the Eagles have seemingly had no problems getting past the LA Rams in recent times, and that new logo is dreadful, if we're brutally honest. It's terrible. It looks like some kind of Weather Channel advertisement as opposed to an NFL team. But besides that, it's Jared Goff, and the Rams offense looked terrible last year. It was woefully inconsistent, and maybe they'll get some things right, and maybe a change of heart at running back and some new refreshing ideas from coach Sean McVay may inject some problems for the Philadelphia Eagles. But overall, this is going to be their home opener. That's something that the Rams of this generation are yet to experience under McVay's guidance, and I feel like the link will be absolutely roaring for that matchup. So this will be a fun one to watch for sure, but I think it's going to be more of an offensively minded game. But the Eagles realistically shouldn't have much in the way of a problem, so long as they play as they should do. Week 3 sees me come to town, Joe Burrow Heisman winner. Can't wait to meet you all. Seriously, I had a bit of a video idea where I could almost run around the Philadelphia region in a Bengals jersey and see how many times I get stopped for photos, but I can't bring myself to wear a Bengals jersey, and I just think I might get beaten up. So we're going to avoid that idea, but this again should be a relatively easy game for the Eagles, although it will be interesting to see how this year's #1 overall pick does fare at the NFL level. Week 4 sees the team's first real monumental challenge in the way of Super Bowl runners-up, the San Francisco 49ers. It's a stacked roster both on offense and defense, and if Andre Dillard's your starting left tackle, that's not really a defensive end you want to come up against in terms of a matchup straight away. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a really, really gritty slobber knocker matchup, but one I'm probably most excited to watch just from a pure football standpoint. It's going to be a coaching chess match, and it's going to be our first real look as to how strong this Eagles team really can be in 2020, I feel. So buried within this next 4-game slate of week 5 through 8 are 2 very tricky games. That tough, tenacious Steelers defense is going to be a problem, and again, another measuring stick to see just how much this offense has improved or hasn't. Then you go a week later and you face the Baltimore Ravens, but at home. That's going to be the equalizer, I think. If the Lincoln Financial Field faithful can really roar into life and silence the offense and make it go into a silent count, then there's signs of hope. There's a way to try and slow down Lamar Jackson. And I've said in previous videos, this is going to be that game where the Eagles are going to rely on their defensive backs. They're going to need a lot of 7-8 DB personnel to try and thwart the sheer wideness that this team plays to. It almost plays side to side as opposed to north and south and makes up the extra yardage in open space, and the Eagles can't afford to let that happen, especially with the tackling deficiencies of their linebacker group. So getting past the Steelers, it's more, can you win a shootout against Big Ben? I think the better offense is going to win because because both defenses should be very, very challenging. Week 6 against the Ravens is going to be, in my opinion, the game of the season. I cannot wait to watch it. It's going to be such an intriguing matchup on every single level. But if Carson Wentz can overcome that defense that only got stronger somehow this offseason, then there is a real chance his team goes on to do something special in 2020. Next two games, I think, are potential trap games. Two home games, potential letdown spots after what are really a pair of vigorous outings that will test this team's character to the extreme. I can't see the Giants causing a problem, but I do think the Eagles may end up dropping that home game to Dallas and then swinging back around, going into Jerry World and doing what they're yet to do in the Doug Peterson era and win, but we'll touch on that a bit later. The big thing in the month of October, though, is avoiding that potential letdown, especially if you do only come away with one or maybe even less wins than that against the Steelers and Ravens. You can't afford to let that slump run this team. You can't afford those choked games, the mistakes that cost them last year, because the schedule won't allow for that flexibility to rebound from it because it is tough run after tough run. But you've got 3 consecutive home games. It's a nice spot to be in before going back on the road to start the month of November. It starts with a bye, so 3 consecutive home games and a chance to let your hair down and breathe a little bit. It's something the Eagles haven't had in quite some time. I think that is the perfect placement for a bye, and for once they're not having to go on this crazy road trip all the way around the West Coast, which is also very nice. After that, though, they do go and face the Cleveland Browns in the Dog Pound. It's Baker Mayfield. It shouldn't be too much of a threat by that point. Week 12 is going to be the tricky one against the Seattle Seahawks, and until the Eagles can really get past Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, I wouldn't put money on it. I would love to see it. I think they could have well done it in the playoffs had they had a more capable quarterback, and I love Josh McCown. He played his heart out that game, but it just wasn't enough to get the job done. There is absolutely a chance this is the year the Eagles finally get past Seattle. I'm hoping, I'm praying. I don't know whether it is or not, though. Either way, it's going to be an enthralling matchup. By week 13, I think we're going to very quickly learn whether Aaron Rodgers takes the Jordan Love draft pick in his stride and wants to make the team better and leave with a Super Bowl, or if he wants to destroy it from the inside out. It's the latter. It's a nice easy W on the road in Lambeau. If not, then it's going to be another nail-biter. And talking of which, back home to start the month of December against the New Orleans Saints. Important thing about that matchup is it is finally not in that wretched Superdome. It's at home in front of the Philadelphia fans. The Eagles have been begging for that opportunity. They got blown out a couple of years ago. Then you had the heartbreak in the playoffs, and it just feels like the Saints have been the bogey team for the Eagles over the last few years. And maybe, just maybe, under the Lincoln Financial Field lights, things will be a little bit different. And maybe they can play on the fact that Drew Brees maybe doesn't have the arm to sling it through the wind in a cold, dark November month, as he may have done in the lights of a dome. And now, of course, that's pure speculation. I know Drew Brees is one of the best of all time and still by far one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league, but at least we can hope. I don't think that's been the case for each time the teams have played each other over the last few years. There've always been that worrisome gulp when you see the Saints on the schedule, and this year I don't feel it as bad. I think the Eagles are far more well equipped to deal with them. Week 15, Larry Fitzgerald exists and seems to somehow go off no matter how old he is. I mean, the guy can have a Zimmer frame and still end up decimating this team. And to make life even worse, you've then got Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins on the... Oh my god, just make it end. That's going to be a trap game if I've ever seen one. But it does end with a road trip to Dallas, which I do think the Eagles can win, and a home game against the Redskins, who are probably playing for draft capital by that point anyway. So it is a nice run-in once you get past that terrible 4-game streak of the Seahawks, the Packers, the Saints, and the Cardinals. That, to me, is going to make or break this 2020 campaign, and the Eagles have to be well equipped. Not necessarily in terms of play or the production, but the character, because they cannot afford to let the implosions that broke this locker room last year happen again. No more room for anonymous sources, no more room for choke leads or lackadaisical play or Matt Collins lining up at the wrong spot or whatever it may be. This has to be pristine because the Eagles aren't afforded those opportunities to rebound. There aren't those easy winnable games that are guaranteed W's anymore. This is a tough schedule, and it is going to test how good this team really is. And I think when you look at that, and I've mentioned this before, and the teams they play and the defenses they play and the offenses in particular and how they line up, the Eagles went with speed in mind for one reason: to fight fire with fire, because you've got some very potent offenses there that will do everything they can to bite on a weakness held by a defense, and we know that's the secondary. The Eagles have bolstered it. They've added some rapid players on that side of the ball. And on the offense, we already know it is going to be like wide receiver NASCAR out there, and I'm very excited to see how that all pans out. But let me know your record predictions down below and why. Again, my record prediction will drop this Sunday for Sunday Funday, so make sure you stick around for that. We've got a Davion Taylor film room coming for you tomorrow, so stick around for that one as well. And as always, guys, from myself, Liam Jenkins, you can follow me on Twitter at LiamJenkinsPSN. I'll see you soon.